She said she didn't like going out. Then her friend tagged her at a club in another city. I used to joke that Mia and I were the kind of couple that made beige look exciting. Our best nights were the quiet ones. Chamomile tea sweating on the table, a Netflix show we forgot to finish, her feet tucked under my thigh while I worked on dispatch schedules from my laptop. When we first started dating, she said, almost apologetically, that she didn't like going out. Loud places make my stomach feel like a dryer full of rocks, she told me, and the way she said it made me want to pad the world for her. Turn down all the knobs, make the city whisper. I believed her because believing felt like love, and because the alternative, pressing too hard, asking where she was or who she was with, was something she framed as disrespect. I need my space respected, she'd remind me with a soft smile. And I thought, sure, everyone does. So I made her tea, I learned her favorite lazy pasta, I let the weekend slip by in the domestic glow of errands and inside jokes. When friends asked if we ever went to bars or clubs, I quoted her line like a badge. She doesn't like going out, and I meant it like a compliment, as if I'd found someone honest enough to not pretend. Things that should have made me pause drifted by like dust in sunbeams. A silver fleck on the cuff of her hoodie that wasn't glitter from anything in our apartment. A sweet, heavy perfume that wasn't the light citrus she kept on the dresser. The tiny charge on her card statement labeled Nova Club for 180 Ukrainian hryvnias. Oh, that's just a cafe. They all run their card terminals under weird names, she laughed, scrunching her nose. And I told myself, of course, that happens. Once, when I went to grab a charger from her work tote, a paper wristband, cut through, metallic blue, slid out from a pocket. She swore it was from a friend's birthday at a bowling alley months ago, and that she kept it for the memory. I wanted to interrogate the story the way I usually interrogate routes and time windows at work. But every time I got close to connecting lines, I heard her other refrain. Please don't make me prove myself. That's not love. I am not proud of how easy those words worked on me. I grew up in a family where being trusted was currency and being accused was a stain you could never wash out. So I erred toward trust like people err toward their dominant hand. When Mia said she had social anxiety and that even the idea of crowded places gave her a headache, I took the anxiety as fact and built my behavior around it. And for a while, it even felt like we were both building something. Some soft, quiet life neither of us had to recover from. On Fridays, I would cook, and she would lean against the counter telling me about her coworkers with the kind of breezy detachment people use when they don't want to carry the day home. On Saturdays, she'd sometimes go see her mom, or grab a tea with Anna, the friend who was all rings and laughter and the kind of beauty that made strangers offer phone chargers unprompted. I liked Anna for how she didn't seem to flinch when Mia said no to plans. Another time, Anna would sing, like saying no was a cloud passing the sun, inevitable and not personal at all. Around us, the building lived its own life. The neighbor's dog with fireworks for lungs, the elevator that sighed like a disappointed ant, the foyer camera with a little red light that blinked even when no one was watching. Most nights, the loudest thing was the kettle. If Mia came home late, she would press her cheek to mine, cold from outside air, and tell me she was sorry, she lost track of time, the buses were weird. I would pour the tea, and we would be okay again. The night it changed was unremarkable until it wasn't. It was a Saturday in late spring. The kind of night that smells like wet concrete and teenage daring. Mia told me at dinner that she might go to her mom's, maybe stay over if they ended up reorganizing closets. She's been asking me for ages, she said, chewing on a piece of basil like it offended her. If I don't pick a night, it'll never happen. I kissed her forehead and told her to take the car if she wanted. She said no, the train was fine, less hassle. She left with a tote and a small roller, just in case I sleep over. I did the dishes, logged into work to batch a few loads for Monday, then fell into the dumb lull of scrolling. It was just past midnight when my phone buzzed with the dopamine chime we all pretend we're not addicted to. Anna mentioned Mia in their story. I didn't even click it at first. I have a bad habit of saving notifications like I saved the last bite of dessert. The second buzz stacked right under it. Anna tagged Mia at PULSE. In the preview, before I tapped, I saw a smear of club lights and a pink neon sign that I recognized from every third influencer reel. Pulse, a place I'd never been. In a city 2 hours away by the fast train. When I opened the story, it was the kind of chaotic video you always get from the front of a VIP section. Bass so fat it shook the camera into little digital hiccups. A view of a stage where a DJ was swinging one arm like he was conducting a storm, and the glitter of someone's sequined dress flashing red, blue, red as if it had its own siren. The camera swung and caught faces in flashes, laughing mouths, tilted heads, a slow-motion toast. And then, for an instant so short I would have doubted it, if not for the way my stomach fell through the floor, I saw the halo of Mia's hair. the exact slope of her jaw, the chain I'd given her for our 6 months, fine as a thread and catching the light. Someone's hand, big wrist, braided leather bracelet, touched her shoulder like they owned the cue to her laugh. The tag bubble was there, fixed above the blur like proof of life. At Mayav, small and so certain of itself. I stared at the corner timestamp, 0047. The music bled through my phone speaker even on low, like a pulse pressed to my ear. I told myself not to panic, because panic is a cheap author, and because there are always other explanations. Maybe Anna mislabeled an old video. Maybe Mia popped in for 5 minutes with Anna on their way home. Maybe. I tapped to the next story and it was a boomerang of clinking glasses under a shower of white confetti, the kind that sticks to hair and collars and turns up in machines days later. The caption had 3 lightning emojis and the city tagged in big friendly font like a door sign. I could hear someone shouting something that sounded like her name, but the audio tore it into pieces. I didn't write to Mia. My first impulse was to say, "Where are you?" And then my second impulse was to not become the guy who validates someone else's lies by sounding like a cartoon of jealousy. I set my phone down next to the kettle, as if weight could keep it from vibrating off the counter. In the living room, our mugs were still there from earlier, little crescents of tea at the bottom like the moon had a twin. I told myself that if she was at her mother's, none of this contradicted it except every piece of it. I told myself I'd sleep and ask in the morning and I'd be the calmest man there ever was. But my hands had their own plans. I held the screen long enough to save the stories because they disappear. Because everything disappears. I opened my banking app and found the quiet red line of a transaction. Intercity 2110. The same city tagged under the confetti. I closed it like it had burned me. When the kettle clicked off, the apartment felt so quiet I could hear the tiny electrical teeth of the fridge. Somewhere out there a room was breathing with bass and my girlfriend, who said she didn't like going out, was close enough to it to be caught on someone else's camera. The phone buzzed again. Another story. The DJ was yelling over the drop, and the camera caught the edge of the VIP like the lip of a cliff. Just before it cut, the flash picked a constellation of glitter off a dark hoodie. I thought of the silver fleck I plucked from her cuff last week, the one I flicked away like lint. I thought of how easy it is to turn down a volume knob until you can't hear anything at all. I stood there in our kitchen with both hands on the counter and felt the apartment tilt, like a train taking a curve I hadn't known we were on. In the morning, I decided to play it like I hadn't seen anything. I brewed coffee, left her a text at 9:14. Hope you had fun with your mom. Let me know when you're heading back, and tried to sink into work. The typing and the calls kept me from replaying that brief flash of her jawline in a strobe. At 10:03, she replied, "Hey, yeah, I ended up staying over at Anna's. We just talked and passed out." Heading home later, no mention of her mom, no mention of a club, just a neat folded version of the night that left out every jagged edge. I stared at the message until my coffee went cold. I decided to test something small. Did Anna's place get Wi-Fi yet? She answered 2 minutes later. Ugh, no. Her building's internet is trash. We just used data for a bit, but then my phone died. Except I'd seen her tagged in a story at 12:47, and then again in another story at 1:15, clinking glasses. Her phone clearly hadn't died until at least the middle of the night. I didn't call her out. Not yet. Around noon, I messaged Anna, light and casual. "Hey, thanks for looking out for Mia last night. Hope you two had fun." It took her over an hour to respond. "Yeah, it was interesting. She'll fill you in." Which was strange because Mia's version had been, "We just talked and passed out." I almost replied, but something about Anna's tone made me think she wasn't saying everything. When Mia got home later that afternoon, she looked tired. Hair damp like she'd just showered. Hoodie with a faint sparkle if you caught it in the right light. She dropped her tote by the door and gave me a quick kiss, but her eyes skated past mine. "Sorry I'm late. Trains were delayed." I nodded, watching the way she didn't meet my gaze for more than a second. That night, when she went to take out the trash, I caught our neighbor Sergey in the hall. He's in his late 40s, works nights as the complex security guard. I mentioned I'd seen him reviewing the foyer camera once when someone's bike was stolen. "You mind checking if the timestamp was right on that thing?" I asked, pretending it was about visitors for a delivery I missed. He pulled it up on his phone, and there it was. Friday evening, 1942. Mia wheeling her small suitcase out the front door, wearing that same hoodie, waving to someone waiting by the curb. No coat, no extra bags, not the way she dresses for her mom's place in the suburbs. I thanked him, tried to keep my voice flat. Inside, my stomach felt like it was filled with ball bearings. I opened my bank app again, scrolling back to Friday night, Intercity 2110, to the same city where Pulse was. The fare matched a one-way ticket. Another line, Taxi Go time-stamped 22:05, which would be right after getting off the train. I stared at the sequence, train, taxi, club, and realized there wasn't any gap for a cozy tea night with Anna. When I brought it up to her the next day, I kept my tone level. Weird, my bank showed a ticket to City. Did you go somewhere? She blinked, tilted her head. What? No, you're mixing things up. That was ages ago. I pulled up the app, the date glowing right there. She laughed, but it was the thin kind. Babe, you're reading too much into nothing. You know I hate those places. Then came the shift. The defensive softness. It's exhausting that you'd think I'd lie. Do you not trust me? The way she said it, like my doubt was the real crime, made my throat go tight. I'm just asking, I managed. Feels like pieces aren't lining up. She shook her head, looked away and whispered, You're making me feel unsafe right now. That line, unsafe, hit like a stop sign. It made me want to back up and apologize, to fold myself small so she'd feel okay again. I almost did. Almost. 2 nights later, a message from Anna lit up my phone. Can we talk? Without Mia knowing? My fingers hovered before I typed, Sure. What's going on? She sent a voice note, her voice low but sharp. I can't watch her do this to you anymore. If you want the truth, meet me tomorrow at 8 p.m. at Luna Cafe. Just you. I sat there in the glow of the message, heart beating faster than it had in months. The next morning, Mia was all smiles over breakfast, asking if I wanted her to pick up anything for dinner. I looked at her, wondering how many versions of herself she carried. How many nights had these quiet mornings been the afterimage of something loud and hidden? I told her no, we were good for groceries. She kissed my cheek and I counted the hours until 8 p.m. When I walked into Luna Cafe, Anna was already at a corner table, no makeup, hair tied back like she wanted zero distraction from what she was about to say. She didn't waste time. She's been seeing him again. Kirill, the DJ. That's why she was at PULSE. That's why she's been taking those weekend trips. I just stared, the name slotting into place like a final puzzle piece. Kirill, Mia's ex from before me. A name she only ever said like a bad taste she'd spat out years ago. Anna slid her phone across the table. Pictures. Backstage shots from the night of the tag. Mia in a silver top under her hoodie, wrist circled by a DJ crew pass, standing beside Kirill with that same braided leather bracelet I'd glimpsed in the video. In one shot, her head was tipped toward him, smile unguarded, champagne in hand. Why'd you tag her? I asked. Anna's jaw tightened. Because I talked to her first. I told her to tell you. She laughed. Said you'd never find out. So I made sure you would. She leaned back, arms crossed. If you don't believe me, next Saturday, same club, they're streaming live. He loves calling people out in the crowd. Watch it. You'll see for yourself. I left with the photos burned into my brain, a strange clarity settling in. If Anna was right, then Mia would walk herself into the proof. All I'd have to do was press play. Saturday came faster than I wanted. I didn't tell Mia I'd met with Anna. I didn't even hint. I just let the days pass, each one quietly rearranging my understanding of the person I lived with. She mentioned in her casual over-breakfast way that her aunt's birthday was coming up this weekend, and she might stay over to help with the cooking. I nodded like it was the most reasonable thing in the world. She smiled, relieved I wasn't asking questions, and I wondered if she mistook my silence for trust instead of preparation. That night, I made sure my phone was charged, the club's livestream page bookmarked. I kept busy all day. Laundry, cleaning, anything to keep my head from replaying Anna's voice telling me to just watch. Around 6 p.m., Mia wheeled her small suitcase to the door. Don't wait up, okay? Auntie keeps me late with tea and gossip. I gave her a smile that felt like it belonged to someone else and wished her a good night. By 8 p.m., Sergey was at the desk downstairs, and I wandered by, pretending I was picking up a package. The foyer camera was angled just right. 7:42 p.m. Mia leaving again with the suitcase, phone in one hand, hoodie pulled over her head despite the warm air. I thanked him and headed back up. It was almost funny how simple it was to confirm the things she wanted to keep invisible. I set up my laptop on the coffee table, volume low, live stream tab open. For the first half hour, it was just wide shots of the dance floor, camera cutting to the DJ booth, the crowd moving like a single organism under flashing lights. At 12:03 a.m., the MC's voice boomed through the speakers. We've got someone special in the house tonight. The camera panned toward the VIP section. My pulse doubled. And then, there she was. Not in the silver top from Anna's photo, but in a fitted black dress, hair down, the chain I'd given her glinting like a deliberate signal. Next to her, Kirill in his all-black uniform of the scene, braided leather bracelet catching the strobe. He leaned close to say something in her ear, She threw her head back, laughing. The MC shouted, "Shout out to Mia, who came all the way here to party with us." And the crowd roared like it was in on the joke. I hit record on my screen. The timestamp burned into the corner. 0021. The live chat scrolled on the side, usernames calling her name with strings of emojis. Crowns, hearts, lightning bolts. She didn't look like someone dragged reluctantly into a crowd. She looked at home. By 1:15 they were still there, champagne on the table, her hand resting casually on Kirill's knee like it had every right. I kept recording until the stream switched back to wide shots of the dance floor. Then I saved everything. Video files, screenshots of the chat, even a still frame of the moment the MC said her name. At 2:03 a.m., my phone lit up. "Hey babe, internet's terrible here. Gonna crash at Auntie's, okay? Love you?" I stared at the message, at the little "love you" tacked on like a band-aid. I typed back, "Sleep well," and hit send. In the background of her text, I could still hear the muffled bass bleeding through her microphone, the sound that had been pounding in my speakers minutes before. I sat there in the quiet, the apartment smelling faintly of the coffee I'd made hours ago, and felt something shift inside me. Not rage, not even heartbreak, just a final click of a lock I didn't know was open. I started pulling my suitcase from the closet, folding clothes with a precision I didn't feel. I didn't know exactly how the conversation would go when she came back, but I knew it would be the last one like it. When I finally crawled into bed, the glow of my laptop still lit the room. On the screen, frozen in mid-laugh, Mia's face caught in strobe light looked like a stranger's. I closed it, turned off the lamp, and let the quiet swallow the bass. She came home Sunday afternoon carrying a white bakery box tied with a ribbon, the kind she brought when she wanted to signal normalcy. "Auntie insisted I take the leftover cake," she said, toeing off her shoes without looking up. I was sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop open, the evidence arranged in neat tabs like a silent jury. "Sit for a second," I said. My voice came out calm, almost gentle, which seemed to throw her more than if I'd yelled. She slid into the chair across from me, box still in her hands. "I want to ask you something and I need you to answer without turning it back on me," I began. "Were you at Pulse last night?" Her eyes widened just enough to be noticeable before she laughed, shaking her head. "What? Number? Why would I be? You know I hate clubs." I turned the laptop toward her and hit play. The MC's voice boomed from the speakers. "Shout out to Mia!" The camera panned, caught her laughing with Kirill in the VIP. She froze. The ribbon on the cake box shifted as her grip tightened. "That's not," she started. But the timestamp was there in the corner, the club's logo in the lower third. I clicked to another tab. A screenshot of the live chat, usernames flooding her name with emojis. "This was last night," I said evenly. "I recorded it. I saved the chat. And I know about the train ticket on Friday." Her mouth opened, closed. The first tear slid down her cheek, but her voice stayed steady. "You've been spying on me. This is exactly what I mean when I say I don't feel safe. You went digging, and now you're twisting things." "I didn't dig," I said quietly. "You left pieces everywhere. I just stopped ignoring them." She stood up, box still clutched, and began pacing. "So what? I saw old friends. I danced. It's not a crime. And Kirill?" She stopped, glanced at me, then shrugged. "We were just catching up. You're blowing this up because you have trust issues." I let the words hang between us, the air thick with the baseline that wasn't there anymore. "This isn't about trust issues," I said. "It's about you lying, over and over, and then trying to make me feel wrong for noticing." She sat back down, tears coming faster now. "It's not like that. You don't understand. She broke off, covering her face with her hands. "I just needed, I don't know, to feel like myself again." I didn't answer right away. I was thinking of Anna, of how she'd looked at me across that cafe table, tired and angry on my behalf. I was thinking of the photos. The way Mia's smile in them had been so open, so unguarded, so completely different from the measured expressions she wore at home. "I talked to Anna," I said finally. Her hands dropped from her face, eyes narrowing. "Of course you did," she muttered. "She's always been jealous. She told me the truth. She even tried to give you a chance to tell me yourself. You didn't. And now we're here." For a moment, neither of us spoke. The clock on the wall ticked like it was keeping score. Finally, I said, "I think you should stay at your mom's for a while. I'll work out the rest later." Her mouth opened like she wanted to argue, but instead, she just sat there, blinking, as if she hadn't expected me to step off the script she was used to. I stood, walked to the counter, and picked up my phone. "I'm going out for a bit. When I get back, I'd like you to be packed." When I left the apartment, the hallway smelled faintly of cigarette smoke from somewhere below. I stepped outside into the warm air, the city humming around me, and realized my hands weren't shaking. For the first time in months, I wasn't guessing anymore. I didn't go far, just to a small park a few blocks away, the one with the rusted swings and the bench that leaned like it was tired. I sat there for an hour, watching kids run across the grass, their laughter spilling into the air without hesitation. My phone stayed in my pocket, but my mind replayed everything. I don't like clubs. Every night she said she was at her mom's, every time she used the word unsafe like a trump card. By the time I walked back, the sun had dipped low, and the streetlights were buzzing to life. I opened the door to find her suitcase half-zipped by the couch. She was sitting cross-legged on the floor, scrolling her phone, as if she were just waiting for a cab to the airport. She looked up. "You're really doing this?" "I am," I said. "It's not punishment. It's the end of something that stopped being real," she scoffed. But it was weak. "You've been manipulated by Anna. She's hated me since the moment she met me." "Anna didn't make you buy a ticket to another city," I said. "She didn't make you sit in a VIP booth with your ex while telling me you were with your aunt." Her jaw tightened. For a second, I thought she'd throw something, words or objects. But instead, she zipped the suitcase in one swift motion. "Fine, but you'll regret this." "I already regret staying this long," I said. She stood, yanked the handle of her suitcase and brushed past me toward the door. At the threshold, she turned back, eyes sharp. "You think you know everything. You don't know half of it." And then she was gone, the door closing behind her with a solid click. I stood there in the stillness, the hum of the fridge the only sound, until my phone buzzed. A message from Anna. "She's not going to stop lying to you. I just sent you one last thing, so you don't doubt yourself later." It was a screenshot of a chat between them, dated a week ago. Mia had written, "He's basically a home bank. Pays the rent, groceries, doesn't ask questions. Perfect setup." Anna's only reply had been, "That's messed up." Mia's response, "It's not my fault if he's too trusting." The words didn't even hurt the way I expected. They just confirmed the hollow space I'd been circling for weeks. I stared at them until the screen dimmed, then saved the screenshot with the rest of the files. Later that night, as I packed my own suitcase, this time for me, I found one of her hoodies folded at the back of the closet. A tiny fleck of glitter caught the lamplight, winking like it knew something I didn't. I brushed it off, dropped the hoodie into a donation bag, and kept folding. When I zipped the bag shut, I realized the apartment no longer smelled like her perfume. Just fabric softener, coffee, and the faint metallic tang of the city through the open window. I took a deep breath, sat on the edge of the bed, and listened to the quiet. No bass, no lies, no second guessing. Just quiet. Tomorrow, I'd drop the keys at the front desk, leave the deposit paperwork in the mailbox, and step out of this chapter for good. And if she ever showed up in another live stream, laughing in some VIP booth, it would be someone else's problem to notice. 2 weeks later, I was in a different apartment on the other side of the city. Smaller, older, with creaky floors and a view of a tram line instead of a skyline. But it was mine. No hidden train tickets. No suitcases wheeled out on Friday nights with vague excuses. Just me, my things, and a fridge that hummed in a way I could trust. Mia tried a few times in the first days. Texts about just talking, late-night calls I let go to voicemail. Once, she sent a picture of a mug I'd left behind, like it was a shared relic that might pull me back. I didn't reply. It wasn't silence out of spite. It was the first real boundary I'd held with her. And without the constant tug-of-war for the truth, I realized how much mental space I'd been renting out for free. Anna checked in twice. The first time, to make sure I was okay. The second, to tell me Mia had been seen at another club, this time in a different city, same DJ. "Guess she's consistent," Anna wrote, and I could almost hear the tired smirk in her voice note. I thanked her but told her I didn't need updates anymore. I meant it, knowing the details didn't matter now. The outcome was already written. On a quiet Sunday morning, I sat on my balcony with coffee and thought about the last night Mia had stood in my kitchen, trying to turn the story upside down. How every piece of proof had been met with a deflection, a tear, or a weaponized accusation. How I'd almost fallen for it again, just because it was easier than dismantling what we'd built. That's the thing about lies. They don't just hide the truth. They train you to doubt your own eyes. I'd spent months thinking I was one question away from being too controlling, one observation away from ruining everything. But it wasn't the questions that ruined it. It was the answers I never got. I kept the saved files in a folder on a backup drive, not because I planned to use them, but because there's something grounding about having your own proof. When the past starts trying to rewrite itself in your head, it's good to have timestamps to point to and say, "No, that's what really happened." Every so often, when I walk past a cafe and hear the low thump of bass leaking from someone's phone, I think of that night. The tag notification, the grainy video, her laugh caught in strobe light. But it doesn't sting anymore. The bass has gone back to being just a sound, stripped of all the weight I gave it. If there's anything I took from this, it's that respecting someone's space and ignoring your own instincts are two very different things. One is love. The other is self-erasure. I won't confuse them again. And maybe somewhere, Mia still tells people she doesn't like going out. Maybe she even believes it when she says it. But I know better now. And the next time I build something with someone, it'll be on a floor that doesn't creak when they leave, in a space where every story holds up in the daylight, and where the quiet isn't just the absence of sound, it's the presence of truth.